Hey, all
Hi,
right.
welcome to Ground
Hey,
Truth. This is our first news podcast, so we're just gonna give it a shot. I'm Chris Harris. I founded Ground Truth with Stuart, and yeah, we're gonna talk about forest news. Stu?
hey, I'm Stu. I guess I founded Ground Truth with Chris, or Chris found me after he decided to found Ground Truth. I don't know. But yeah, let's look at the news. We're just going to go over some highlights of forest and environmental news from Ground Truth from this week. So the first one I think we're going to look at is some stuff about tree planting in Canada. So this is an article that I wrote after spending 6 hours listening to. No, it wasn't quite 6 hours. It just felt like that.
Mhm.
I was listening to the Senate testimony from Randy Fournier, the head of PRT.
Oh, it was really, really long.
I don't know exactly how long it was. It felt like I was listening to it for a very long time. I have
Wow.
not tuned into like parliamentary sessions since I was a political
Okay, yeah.
science
Well,
student.
your article made it seem a lot more exciting than that.
I mean, no, the article made it sound like Randy was like going apeshit, being like, "You guys don't know what you're
Yeah. Okay.
talking
Yeah.
about." It was
Okay. Cool.
really. Did you ever meet Randy Fournier? Did you guys ever
No,
interact
no, I've
ever?
never met him. No, no.
Okay, he seems like a nice, polite guy. I don't know. He just very politely talked about why he thinks wildfire restoration trees are necessary. Because, like, you see this a lot in online discourse, right? It's like, why are we planting trees? We should just let them regenerate on their own after wildfires. But he made the point, like, okay, the natural fire cycle is like, he would like draw it with his fingers, like a little area can burn and it'll come
Yeah.
back on its own. But when you have a giant area that
Okay,
burns up,
cool. Yeah, right. And
that's
that's
where
that's
his
really the
something
point.
where
Yeah,
he's
that's
like, pine cones don't fly.
wow. Okay, that's
Like,
great. Yeah.
yeah,
That's what
if no
needed to
one
be
plants
said.
trees there, some of it's going to turn into grassland for sure, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, the amount of forest is so much bigger than it ever was. It's not natural. And that natural regeneration is kind of a weird process. It's not what we need right now. Reforestation speeds it up in enormous amount. As much as
Totally.
natural regen is good, it's not anywhere going to contend with what we're dealing with now.
Totally, yeah. And there's like I believe I don't know, like if you look at forestry around the world, there's individual cases where probably natural regen is better, I would
Yeah.
imagine. Like, you don't plant trees for the sake of planting trees. Don't plant trees in a grassland. But conversely, we don't want forests to become grasslands because they're better carbon sinks than grasslands, I guess.
Right, right. That's cool. Okay, great. Well, anyway, yeah, that's a really good. We'll put a link to it in the notes, and it was a really good. There's a bunch of good articles about it, but in some, what he said was very helpful. He
It
talked
was,
about
yeah.
CBT. He talked about government funding that the federal government should fund more of the trees. Like 2BT,
No,
he
I
was
don't.
saying the 2 billion tree program. He was saying you can't just fund half of it. So right now the funding is they're paying for half of the funding. So they're saying okay, if you pay the other side, but like who's going to pay the other side of a really restrictive project that you can't use for private use. You can't you can be an oil company, but you can't be like all these other things. They have a very restrictive list of stakeholders that the Canadian 2 billion tree program will allow to plant trees, and they're saying we'll fund half, which is cool, but it's not going to get to 2 billion. That's for sure.
Yeah, I mean they're making progress. I think I saw that they've secured funding for 700 million trees, but that doesn't mean 700 million are in the ground. It just means 700 million I think are planned.
No, yeah, it kind of means they were exaggerating 2 billion. It's like after the 2 billion tree program, like 5 years later, they said, "Oh, yay, we funded part of it." Like
I don't know. I don't
it was a
understand.
bold claim if they're only now saying that they've only got a third of the funding, and that's a good thing. Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing he proposed that I didn't quite understand was he was like there should be more private investment for private forests on crown land, and I didn't quite understand
So
what
that was a
that
qualification of 2 billion tree, where they were saying that, you had to meet all these requirements, and they didn't want private investment where you get to own part of the land. They're saying, oh no, it has to be completely for the proliferation of humanity or whatever. And he's saying, no, that there has to be some business interest in it, which we all know there is, and no one's going to put up, that much money, billions of dollars, like to just have it be free to grow, other than a government, right?
meant.
Yeah. So
And it's
he's
really
saying,
too bad because we want, like, the whole point is to enable trees to be planted. Like, wouldn't we want taxpayers to not be on the hook for this? Let's get some private investment. I would think.
exactly. Yeah. And there was already, it was depending how you worded it, but they need to pull the trigger on some of the proposals that were really good proposals coming in, and they need to fund more of it, because half is either they need to fund all of it, or they need to allow private investment, and they need to lower the threshold of what they were allowing for projects. And I think that's a model that, like, all in the world, they'll be looking at different projects like that and saying, could we do the same thing in other countries?
Yeah, because there are a lot of other countries with their own, like, billion trees something programs. Like, I think New Zealand has a 1 billion or 10 billion.
Yeah.
It's
A lot
something.
countries that have a lot of private land, or have a lot of government land, have a big advantage in that way. Like India does own a lot of public land, so does Pakistan, and some of the countries that did that. And Canada has a huge amount of public land, but the public land is managed by the provinces, and then the provinces they each have their own particularities with allowing what we call ESG trees, like environmental sustainability trees, to be planted there.
Like trees that aren't meant for timber.
Right. Environmental trees, we'll call them.
Yeah. Conservation. Yeah. Good
Yeah.
trees. They're all
Cool.
good trees, but better trees.
So what
I
else
guess
is there?
one
Oh,
thing we
sorry.
should one thing we should acknowledge though is, like, of course, like, Randy Fournier is the head of PRT and kind of has a vested interest in us planting a lot of trees. Like, PRT produces how many trees a year? Hundreds of millions.
Right. Yeah. PRT is one of the biggest nurseries, like, in the world, probably, of forest, like, reforestation trees, like trees that are made for reforestation, not arboriculture trees for landscaping. And
Yeah.
but I mean, they could have said a lot of things. They could have said, promoted the virtues of pine and spruce trees, but he was talking on a broader scale of reforestation. He was involving other stakeholders, which I thought was good. It wasn't just
Yeah.
like an industry boys club thing. It was a broader pitch that other stakeholders and investors and stuff should be able to plant.
Hmm.
Yeah, I thought it was a fair. They were all good points.
Yeah, it was good. I just felt we needed to qualify it that way, lest we sound like cheerleaders for Randy. Though I really like
Yeah,
him.
yeah, cool. And what else? He said
Okay.
there's like a $400 million climate action plan.
Yeah, I found that just the other day. It's like, private philanthropists are raising a $400 million climate slush fund, I guess, for Canada. I've never heard of a lot of these foundations before. Like, have you ever heard of, what were these? The Trottier Foundation, the Sitka Foundation?
I'm not sure. Yeah, there's many popping up, like private investments in carbon sequestration, long term carbon. I guess, is that what it is, or what kind of investors or stakeholders are these?
It's very broad. Like, it doesn't say exactly what projects it's going to be used for, but it's going to be, like, the fund is going to be managed by the government of Canada. It's managed by the Clean Economy Fund.
Wow. Okay.
That's chill. Yeah, it's called the Climate Champions Initiative or something. I don't know. I just thought that was really cool. I don't know. We need more money for climate solutions in Canada. I would just be really curious to know where it's going to be spent. But, like, people can see this on the federal government website, eh? Like, you can see where all the grants go for everything.
Okay. Cool. That's a really good resource. Yeah, I'm sure it's linked in the article there. We'll put that in the thing.
I hope it is. If it's not, I'm going to edit it to
We'll
drop in.
update it. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Cool. By the time you see this, it'll be up there.
Yeah, sorry if I didn't.
Yeah, that's all
Okay.
good. So this is
Okay, what was
all. So there were three areas of where the investment is, like bioengineering production, mines, and renewable infrastructure, and forest carbon sink.
Is that what it is? I don't. I don't remember.
You wrote something.
Is it in my? Does it say that?
That's what it says. I'm reading the article. Yeah, this is amazing.
Oh
I
wow,
edited
crazy.
this article and you wrote it, and we don't remember the article.
There's a lot of news that happens every day, man. I don't remember.
Yeah, yeah.
Like if you say wildfire restoration, I'm like, which project was that?
This is amazing. Okay, cool. It's good to know. It's a good reality check.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. Like I don't know. I'm sure. Like I dropped this one on Reddit, and I found the comments were rather cynical. People were like, "Oh, this is probably fake," and maybe it is. I
that's
don't
an
know.
interesting reaction. That's an interesting reaction.
Yeah,
To
like
me,
I don't
I
know.
see
People
it
were
as more of the
cynical.
same, but it's good. I'm glad it's happening. But like the point of our podcast and the point of everything we're doing is transparency. So, like you said, there's a link to it in the government website, and that's
Mhm.
perfect. That's what we want, you know. But then we start to go through them, like the 2BT, which we talked about. We know intimately, but then
Mhm.
and they have quite a bit of transparency. Not as much as we want, but like there's quite a bit, much more than many programs. And then for
Yeah, you can at
carbon,
least see who's receiving. You can at least see who's receiving all these grants, right? It's
yeah,
all in the
that's
government.
huge. That's huge, and how much money's going out. Yeah, so way better than a lot of programs. Whereas this one too, like it's and this is one of the initiatives that, like we really are promoting. I think is that the government has extremely good data that they could share. Like they have all the data on this project and who these stakeholders are if they're allowing, you know. So if they're putting a link to it in the website, that's great. And then if they had more, and the more the better, it'll just more transparency. More people like
Yeah,
us talking about it is going to put more eyeballs on it. More people saying it's probably fake, and then thinking, well, I should probably look into that. It's just good. It's scrutiny, and you can see the numbers instead of just broadly saying $400 million.
no, it's good people care about it. It's good people are like thinking about it critically. I don't know, maybe there'd be more of a case to think about it critically if like the money was all in private hands, right? But like it's like they're writing government a blank check, I think, effectively. The taxpayers will decide how this is spent or the
But the Sitka
representatives.
fund and stuff, those are private equity funds, are they not?
I don't know actually. Let's Google this. Let's Google this like Sitka Foundation home. I like that name. We are a
They
family
all,
foundation
yeah.
with a simple mission. They have a nice little Sitka tree.
Okay, yeah.
I don't know anything about them. What
Regeneration
about
cost is $140 per hectare. That's very, very cheap. That's very cheap. That's probably cheaper than it
where
costs for
is
someone to
that in
even visit the
Brazil?
site. Yeah.
Is
Like for a
that's in
forester to drive to the site would probably cost that much. Maybe that's
you've left
exaggerating.
Brazil. You've left into the Brazil article, haven't you?
No, we do not have enough land to plant the planet. Oh, I'm in the wrong article. Okay. Sorry.
No, that's okay. Well, no, if you want, like, I don't know, we can spend all podcasts trying to find out who the Sitka Foundation is, but I don't know, maybe Brazil is more exciting. Do you want to talk about I think that's from Brazil.
We should segue to Brazil. Yeah.
Let's talk about Brazil. I'm going there next month. I'm so excited.
That's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I've never been to Rio before, but I'm stoked. I've not learned any Portuguese yet. Um,
Yeah.
I'll have to do that soon. So the Brazil one was the next one, right? $9 billion plan. Okay, between $5 and $9 billion. It's very, so I guess the skinny of it is Brazil has had this plan for a long time. They were talking about reforesting 12 million hectares of land
Yeah.
as early as 2016, I think. And then
Okay.
that year, like the official government statistics or whatever, it's an institute with a name I can't pronounce. They released an estimate saying it would cost anywhere between the equivalent of 5 billion and 9 billion US dollars to reforest 12 million hectares of land.
That's
But
amazing.
like, yeah, no, it's cool. I really hope that they can do it. And yeah, at COP 16, the big one that they just did in Cali, they renewed the commitment. They're like, okay, we're serious about it now. We're going to do it for real. I guess maybe the renewal of the commitment had to do with the fact that Brazil had a more conservative minded government in power. But then Lula came back recently, and I think Lula is a lot more pro environment, the
Yeah.
current president.
Yeah.
Um,
No, it's way better. It's way better. At least it sounds way better anyway. That's like the
yeah,
tone.
yeah. So in the article, I just tried to like dive into like why there's such a varied estimate of costs, like 5 billion, 9 billion, whatever billion. Like why I think a lot of people don't think about why tree planting costs so much or so little. Is that a lot? Is that a little?
Yeah.
Um,
Well, you said the price here, like $400 a hectare, or 4,000 is a lot, but it's not unthinkable. It depends on the conditions. Like in Canada, it's much cheaper than that, but it's yeah, in Brazil, I don't know. It could be, but then there's a lot of administrative costs too, which are very suspect, and that's why you need more transparency.
yeah, yeah. Like, I don't know. There's also so many different scenarios. Like in their scenarios, they talk about maybe doing like a lot of natural regen as opposed to actual planting.
Okay,
And
yeah,
the natural regen would be a lot cheaper. I think that's the one that you're quoting when you're saying 140.
140. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's super cheap. That's great. But of course, like as we talked
Are they
about,
doing
if you
anything at all? I mean, is that what do you get for 100? Natural regen maybe just means they're not doing anything.
sometimes natural regen is great. I don't know. Like I think sometimes as long as you leave nature alone, things will come back.
Hmm.
But like obviously you can't always do that. That's why tree planting is a thing that just like
Yeah.
exists. If they didn't, I remember, I won't say where, but I remember when I was a Canadian tree planter at a pre work meeting, one of the clients from a timber mill came up to us and he was talking about other technique. Like the planters asked him questions. They were asking him, like, oh, why don't you guys use drones? Oh, why don't you just let the trees come back, right? Just like a bunch of kids who were
Like the
asking him.
forester was saying that. Wow. Okay. Interesting.
Well, they were asking the forester questions with like they were trying to be snarky. They were trying to be smart,
Okay. Okay.
right?
They're messing with him. Okay.
And
Yeah. Sounds funny.
he was very blunt and very direct. It still makes me giggle. He said, I remember this distinctly. He was like, "Trust me, if I could replace you all with drones, I would."
That's so funny. That's so funny.
He was so straight up about the fact he did not give a rat's ass about us.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
But
that. I think that's really honest. That's the way to be. I think. You know.
yeah, totally. But anyways, no, bringing it back to the Brazilian planting stuff. Like, yeah, I cited this study
Yeah.
that came out this year about average costs of reforestation in Latin America.
Yeah.
Uh, and so, like, it broke down all these figures that I thought were super interesting. But they're all, well, there's a few problems, which is that it starts with these are all self-reported figures, right? And like I'm not obviously accusing anyone of being dishonest. I just think
Hmm.
there's obvious flaws and gaps in knowledge when you have self-reporting figures. Like according to these self-reported figures, the median cost of maintenance in the short term is exactly 1,000 US dollars. And
That's what you
like
put on Reddit. This was the figure you put on Reddit or whatever. Can you show it?
yeah, yeah,
Show us
I
on the
showed the
thing.
graph. I showed the graph on Reddit, but sorry, I'll get into that in a moment. I'll get
Okay. Yeah.
into
Because you
that.
could show it on YouTube.
Uh,
Like. Yeah. Anyway.
I mean, yeah, let's show it right. We might as well show people what we are talking about. Why not?
Hmm.
I'm going to share my screen. Share. Okay, can you see the screen?
Yeah. Yeah. It's great.
Okay, so yeah, this is based on a study done by not Thomas Crowther himself, I think, but some of the people at Crowther Labs. And so it goes into the median cost. So, like in Brazil, the median cost of a seedling is look how tiny it looks compared to all these other costs.
Yeah.
The cost of actually growing the tree is a buck 50 US dollars, apparently.
Wow.
That's a lot more expensive than Canada, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
Well, it
That's
depends what trees you're growing, but that's more expensive than Canadian conifers, certainly.
totally.
Um, and then you have like the land preparation. Again, this is a median costs based on self-reporting figures, but apparently exactly US dollars 625 per hectare.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. It's such a neat round
I see
number.
what you mean. They wouldn't. It's unlikely that it would have landed so squarely on the dollar. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the tree planting itself, apparently $1,000 a hectare.
Okay, yeah.
Maintenance and then monitoring, that's a
But
bit more of a real looking number, $337 a hectare.
well, real if they don't do much. Yeah, it depends what they do, and the horizon, like how long it's going to go on for. I mean, if you looked at the total just off the top of my head, it looks like 2,000, 3,000. So you got five, probably 6,000 total. So I mean that's not bananas. I mean, at 2,000 a hectare, that's $3 a tree.
Well, it's like 3,000. It's like 3,000 in the short term before monitoring. I guess it's probably 3,000 for the first 2 or 3 years or something.
But it's interesting because establishment means waiting for them to grow. Like it's not like establishment, like the tree is doing the work of establishing itself. So planting, growing the tree is one cost that's there.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, and the seedling cost is extremely small, which is unusually small. So the numbers are a bit funny, but the cost of the tree, the cost of land prep are the big costs. Planting the tree is a big cost, and then but establishment means that like the tree does that itself. Once it's planted in the ground, that's establishment. So I don't know why they would have said establishment cost so much, but it's just good to see some costs, even if it's doesn't make any sense to us as
It's good
experts.
to see the receipts. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. I think people on Reddit did not like the way this graph was presented.
Well, it was a data thread, but anyway, yeah, it's not the
Yeah.
greatest, coolest graph in the world, and the numbers aren't great, but it demonstrates like what all the costs are, and that six grand a hectare is like that's probably true, like that might be true. That seems
Yeah.
realistic to me over the long term.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's not unrealistic. I just wish I had a clearer idea. But it's cool that they're showing us some of this stuff. It's cool we can see some of the things.
Yeah,
And then
it
I
would be a
mapped
great survey.
yeah, and then I mapped the three scenarios here. Like you'll see natural regen is like in this scenario they let 2/3 of it be natural regen, or 60%. That's for the one in the middle.
Okay, yeah,
And then each successive scenario is,
yeah.
even in the lowest case scenario, it's 40%. And then actual planting, best case scenario, would be 30%.
Okay, that's amazing.
Yeah, yeah. And I don't know. It's cool to be able to get a look at it, but yeah, essentially that's why it costs so much. Um, but then the other thing that the article went into is that not all the Brazilian tree planting projects are monitored. Like they have their own app. It's called Restoration Observatory, or like
Hmm.
the Portuguese version of that. And it's
Yeah.
really cool. Like, people should check it out. It's like restore.eco. Like it shows you where the trees are being
That's
planted.
amazing. Yeah, there's some really good countries are putting out really good apps. I saw that one from Kenya, the other one. It was 15B, I think it was called. That was a really cool app for tracking trees, like in their own country, like a mobile, like for iPhone. I was really surprised.
Yeah, yeah. I don't think that one's a public facing app though, eh? Like that's just one that like the government uses or something, but I
Yeah, I
don't
didn't
think that.
sign. I don't know if I actually created an account and stuff, but I was surprised that they'd even have an iPhone account. And I looked, you could get somewhere in the app, and it was pretty cool. But yeah, I
Yeah.
stopped short of actually claiming to be a Kenyan tree planter.
Wow.
Yeah,
2 million trees in Canada, 0 in Kenya. So,
yeah,
no, but
yeah.
anyway, sorry, to get back to Brazil. The problem is, like, apparently only 2 Brazilian states show their tree planting projects on this restoration observatory map. For most states, they don't post where their projects happen.
Right.
There was a Manga Bay article that went into it. Like these two guys, like actually filed freedom of information requests with the Brazilian government to find out where the trees were being planted.
Oh my God. Oh yeah, right. You sent that to me. Yeah, that was really cool.
Yeah,
Yeah, they were on this
yeah,
big
no,
journey.
it's really cool what they tried to do, but like the point of the article essentially seemed to be no dice.
Right.
They couldn't.
And
They
that
couldn't
was
or
the
wouldn't.
point. That's sort of how we started this whole journey of like I wanted to make a business about trees again with tree data, like I was doing before, and tree production. and then the government had a lot of data that I'd been contributing to for many years, and then they wouldn't share like basically any of it. And so that was like a huge motivating thing that we were like, oh my God, like how can we not look at the numbers? We've been diligently collecting the information and thinking that, you know, people, you like to think scientists are studying it or whatever. And but no, there's no, they say they're studying it, but you can't see any of the numbers, which would be really, really handy after all the fires to see what trees are growing and what aren't, or just to know in general, like who's planting what, where. We're really proud of the reforestation work we've done, and I'm sure Brazilians are too. So, golly, it would be cool to see what we've grown so far.
It would be so cool, yeah, because you can see, like, you could see from space with geospatial data, you can see if it's turning green, you can see if it's succeeding.
Hmm.
And then there's also, like, I want to just qualify, I'm not an expert on Brazilian reforestation, but I think there's, like, one of the contentious issues is, like, land tenure stuff or something,
Yeah,
like, who
right. That's huge. Yeah,
and it would be so easy to just like see on a map where the trees are being planted and just have the public know for themselves,
yeah,
like, are they being planted on indigenous land or not, you know? But I don't
exactly.
know.
And I think that, yeah, I think that's what a lot of this is
No, you go
about is
on.
that there's little things like that. That's not the bulk of it. Most of the work is good, but they're afraid of certain feedback things. And because if people aren't asking like where are the numbers, then we're not going to see the numbers, and
Oh,
that's
I
just how
seem
it
to
is.
have cut out.
So we need to publicize this information. We need to really talk about this a lot. It's very important that we can see numbers and see evidence-based research, especially from the government. Like, you know, private industry is even doing it, and if the government's not doing it, you know, that's the first thing we could do is to open up this government information.
Totally, totally. So, I
Yeah,
don't know. Anyways, like 12 million hectares. I really hope Brazil can do it. I really hope that they can be transparent about how they do it. I don't know what
yeah,
problems or privacy concerns or like issues they're facing. Maybe if anyone from Brazil is listening, they can enlighten us on that. But I'd really love to see where Brazil's
right,
trees are planted. And I know I'm not the only one who feels that way.
totally. That's cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Do you want to cover one more article before I gotta run?
Okay, yeah, sure. I think I sent you two more for potential discussion.
Okay,
Which
you
ones were
pick.
they? There was
Are you
let's do agroecology map. I really like that one.
cool?
Okay, I'm going to see if I can share. I'm just going to pull up the article. I don't have it open right now, but I'm going to pull it up and then I'm going to share my screen. Because I think this is a really cool one. Agroecology map essentially is, I guess it's kind of like restore.eco, but for agroecology projects. Like it's an interactive map where you can
Okay, right. Yeah,
see,
you showed me that. Yeah, that was
yeah,
cool.
you can see all of the agroecology projects
Wow.
across the world. I think it started off as a Brazilian
Ooh,
thing.
server error. Okay. I'm just trying
What's
to
up?
open it. I got a server error, so that's on their side.
Oh,
Go to the
I
platform.
have it open right now. I'll
Oh, you
just
got it
share my
open.
screen.
Okay, yeah, I got it. There's another link there. Okay.
It's also open source, which is really cool. Like
Yeah, that's
all
great.
of the code is available on GitHub. You can code your own agroecology map if you want.
That's so cool.
Are you able to see my screen, Chris?
Yeah.
Yeah, so check this out. Like you can see it's like everything's in Portuguese because this was originally a Brazilian thing, but they've got the whole world except mysteriously Libya. Maybe there's no agroecology projects in Libya.
It's a
But
very
yeah,
smooth map. The web app, it moves very smoothly. A lot of like global maps like that, they load very chunky, like very slow. So they've obviously used a really good it's probably Leaflet is like a popular, yeah,
yeah,
map and
okay.
like
And so
web
when you click on
framework.
a project,
It works very well.
yeah, you click on a project and it opens it up. Small village with 80 families dedicating their life to producing coffee, passion fruit, pumpkin squash, and
Yeah, if you
sugar
click
cane.
on the link too, it opens and shows more.
Yeah, wow, that's cool.
That's really great.
Did you
Yeah.
see that when I opened it, or like, are you only seeing
No, I
agroecology
clicked
map?
further into it. Click the words and it'll open.
Yeah, yeah. Permaculture.
That's cool. So then another feature that that would really really help is if they had polygons that showed the outline um of the map. Somebody posted that they had land in Peru that they wanted to share. They wanted us to help reforest it, and I thought I would do that for free in public if they gave me the polygon. You know, we could actually contract it out and put it on the website and show everyone how it works.
Like, wait, if like in the
You
present or
responded to someone, a woman put that she has 50 hectares in Peru, and you responded like, "Sure, go to which was cool. You restored
oh
Aiko."
right.
But I was thinking, why don't we actually reforest that in front of everyone who's watching, and we could do it like publicly and show everyone how it works.
Us? Do you mean me?
No,
I'm
I mean me. I mean, I would just casually sit here and type, but do my work in public, like and get contracted out and stuff.
right. I mean, that would be cool. Yeah, I
Yeah,
would chip money into a Peruvian project that lets you actually see everything, like see all the trees that are planted and see the survival rates and just be fully transparent.
for
That's what I
sure.
think.
Yeah, it'd be a safer bet than giving it to someone who's not sharing any information about where the project is.
Hmm.
Well, I mean, because just not to be snobby about it, but that's a lot of the options are that you can donate trees money to plant trees, but you maybe can't see the trees, or you can see them, but only you can see them, so you can't see if they sold them to someone else as well. Whereas this would be out in front of everyone, you know. So I think that would be a pretty good product to for someone to reforest their land. And if anyone else is watching and they have land, I'll do it for a limited time. I will reforest land for
How
free
long is this?
in
How long is
public
this offer
until
valid
I
for?
get too busy. Yeah, if I get flooded with requests. But that would be if I get flooded with requests, that'll be a wonderful day for trees because there'll be lots of people who
What's the
will have
bid
to
on
do it.
this? How much do we have to pay you to do this, Chris?
Nothing.
Nothing. You'll
No,
do
I have
it for
no.
free.
I'm on strike. I'm not. I'm on strike
I would do
again.
it for no, for
You're gonna
$7,000 a hectare.
you're
I
gonna have
would
a
do it.
side hustle.
Yeah,
That
I
was
will have
great.
a side. Stews, Peruvian. No, I'm done with that. I don't want to ever imagine trying to oversee it in another language too. Like imagine if like it was like
No,
overseeing
numbers are
trees.
numbers, man. Numbers are numbers, and so are maps. You know, like you can see a lot that's going on.
You're
If
right.
it's
There's really only like 10 things we would ever say to staff. Where are the numbers?
yeah,
Is all right. Okay. Well, Chris has to go somewhere to do something. So I guess
I
that
have to move a
concludes.
piano for my friend.
Chris has to go move a piano for his friend. That sounds exhausting. Are you sure you don't want to plant trees, buddy? No, he'd rather move pianos. But agroecology map is cool. We recommend you all check it out. It's cool. It's not full transparency, but it's pretty darn close.
Yeah, it's getting there. Yeah, it's going in the right direction. Okay, cool.
Very
Thanks,
awesome.
everyone. This was great. Welcome to our
All
first
right.
podcast. Okay, see ya. Bye.
Fingers crossed. Bye.